This video is brought to you by Skillshare. Every time I read Alan Moore's The Killing Joke, I'm amazed by how quick and effortless the journey is from the very first panel to the very last. In case you don't know, The Killing Joke is a self-contained story that explores the relationship between Batman and the Joker, specifically how they are both psychological mirror images of the other. And Moore does this by offering a tragic origin story for the Joker, where in a single day he loses his wife and unborn child and falls into a pool of chemicals, leaving him permanently disfigured. This origin story, brought about by a single tragic day, is oddly similar to Bruce Wayne's, where, as a child, he witnessed the murder of his mother and father. These tragic days launched each into their own madness. Bruce Wayne, a vigilante dressed as a bat, and the Joker, a homicidal maniac. The entire story reads like one long run-on sentence, never slowing down or giving the audience a chance to breathe. It's almost like the audience falls into a deep trance. And that's exactly how Alan Moore wants us to feel while reading The Killing Joke. So how does he do that? In his published essay, Writing for Comics, Alan Moore offers insight and reasoning behind his proven method for writing comic books. He examines story, plot, structure, dialogue, world building, and other factors that go into elevating his own work. And the one aspect I find most intriguing is his approach to scene transitions. When I say transitions, I mean how the writer and illustrator move the story from one location to another location in 2 consecutive panels. In most comics, it's common to end one scene and simply start the next scene somewhere else. This harkens back to the classic era of writing comics where the writer would simply include "meanwhile" inside the panel to denote the change in location. Modern comics aren't as obvious, but most jump from one location to another without any connective tissue. The audience feels this jump, the stop and start, and according to Alan Moore, such breaks in the story are what wake the audience from their trance. If a transition is handled incorrectly, what it does is to bring the reader up short against the fact that he or she is reading a story. If you spent the first scene building up the reader's involvement in the storyline and the characters, you don't want to do anything to remind them of their basic unreality. Since changes in location often require a sort of split-second pause between finishing one scene and beginning another, the transition gap is one of the places where you are most likely to lose your reader's interest if you don't handle it properly. The Killing Joke is 46 pages, and each transition throughout the story successfully bridges the gap of scenes, always pushing the audience forward in rhythm, like a drum beating a constant tempo. Moore mainly uses 2 transitional devices: dialogue and image. Let's take the very first transition in the story. The first panel is at Arkham Asylum, and the second panel is at a carnival. Moore uses overlapping dialogue to seamlessly transition from one scene to the next. Batman says, "I'm going to ask you politely just one more time." And in the next panel, Batman's dialogue is continued. Where is he? Batman's words are encased in a rectangle word bubble, indicating voiceover, as opposed to the oval word bubbles, which indicates voices within the visible location. This overlapping dialogue carries us from one panel to the next. Moore utilizes coincidental dialogue in this transition as well. Batman asks the question, "Where is he?" And coincidentally, characters in a completely different scene happen to be talking about a similar subject. In this case, the owner of the carnival almost seems to answer Batman's question. "Ah, there you are." This call and response tempo from scene to scene pushes the story forward without ever skipping a beat. Moore uses this coincidental dialogue again later on when he has to transition from the Batcave to Gordon's house. How can 2 people hate so much without knowing each other? I hate this. I hate it. The repetition of a single word pulls us along. The letterer Richard Starkings even emboldens the word hate, highlighting the repetition and the similar conversations happening at both locations. Throughout The Killing Joke, we're constantly jumping back and forth in time, witnessing the Joker's tragic origin, while simultaneously tracking the Joker's latest scheme. To help motivate these jumps in time, Moore and artist Brian Bolland utilize images to transition from past to present like visual echoes. Here's the very first instance of a flash back to the past and flash forward back to the present. Bolland's beautiful composition and layout of both panels serves as mirror reflections, which instantly snaps the audience back and forth. There are dozens of other similar examples scattered throughout the story, and this use of reflected images is perfect because it not only helps transition from scene to scene, but because it also reinforces the larger themes at work within the story. The Joker sees himself reflected in water and glass throughout the story, seeing himself for who he is and who he used to be. But he also sees himself in Batman. Both creatures of madness brought on by one tragic day, both sides of the same face card, light and dark, good and evil, perfect reflections of each other. And it's these seamless transitions that effortlessly carry us all the way through to the end. And before we know it, we've gone all the way from the first panel to the very last. As I see it, a successful story of any kind should almost be like hypnosis. You fascinate the reader with your first sentence, draw them in further with your second sentence, and have them in a mild trance by the third. Then, being careful not to wake them, you carry them away up the back alleys of your narrative, and when they are hopelessly lost within the story, having surrendered themselves to it, you do them terrible violence with a softball bat, and then lead them whimpering to the exit on the last page. Believe me, they'll thank you for it. This video is brought to you by Skillshare. I'm a huge fan of comic books and how the medium uses carefully designed illustrations to tell stories. I've written comic books myself, but I'm always looking to learn more about the craft and how to use visual images so I can tell better stories in the future. If you're looking to write or illustrate comics and don't know where to start, or like me, you're hoping to learn more tricks of the trade from experts, I'd highly recommend checking out Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of videos spanning art, business, technology, and much, much more. A premium membership gives you unlimited access to high-quality classes from experts working in their fields, so you can improve your skills, unlock new opportunities, and do the work you love. For example, I recently took a class by Marvel and DC artist Phil Jimenez called The Art of Visual Storytelling: How Comics Work, and it's helped me learn how to use the invisible camera as a language tool in my comic writing and also in the storyboarding process of my filmmaking. I can't recommend it enough if you're a fan of comic books or storytelling in general. And what's great about Skillshare is that it's more affordable than most learning platforms out there, with an annual subscription costing less than $10 a month. As a sponsor of this video, Skillshare will give the first 500 people to use the promo link in the description their first 2 months for free. So sign up now and start taking the classes and learning the skills that will take your dream to the next level. Thanks everyone for watching. Entertain the Elk puts out 2 new videos a month, so if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe by clicking the pink elk below. That way you can be sure to watch every new video when it comes out. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with your friends. And since this is my first comic book video, leave me a comment below telling me what your favorite comic book is. Mine would be Alan Moore's Saga of the Swamp Thing. Thanks again everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time.